All right, so when it's time to settle down and wind down for the night, sometimes you just like to sip on some things, right? You like to maybe sip on some chocolate milk, or maybe you like to sip on hot chocolate. I don't know, whatever the case may be. The fact is, when you're on a ketogenic diet, sometimes you end up missing out on some of those things. I know personally I do, and that's why I'd come up with a couple of particular drinks that I sip on throughout the course of the night that help me fall asleep, but also give me that sense of satiation or that sense of mental fulfillment that I really seek when I'm on a low-carb diet. And you don't have to be on a keto diet to abide by any of these recipes. These recipes are good to go no matter what, but obviously they have a solid purpose if you're on a low-carb or keto diet. Hey, you are tuned into the internet's leading performance, fat loss, and nutrition channel. New videos coming out every single Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 7 a.m. Pacific time, but a bunch of other videos peppered in throughout the week as well. Also, make sure you turn on that little bell button so you can turn on notifications so you can know whenever I go live or post a new video. All right, so let's break down this first one. I'm gonna give you 3 different drinks here. So 3 different things that you can compile easily. And all these recipes are gonna include the ingredients that are in front of me right here. So super simple, super straightforward. The first one is a tea variation of bulletproof or keto coffee, except we're not using coffee, we're using tea. And we're not using green tea or matcha, we're actually using chamomile. Okay, so we're literally making a fat chamomile tea. And I know it just sounds like I'm just compiling a bunch of ingredients together, but the fact is there is some legit merit behind each and every ingredient that I'm gonna throw into this. So first off, let's talk about chamomile tea for a second. So we've all heard the whole Peter Rabbit thing where chamomile tea helps you feel better when you're sick or helps you relax, helps you wind down. Well, honestly, there is some legitimate physiological merit to that. You see, there's 2 main reasons that chamomile has this effect on your body and why I'm a huge fan of it. The first one is something known as terpenoids. Okay, these terpenoids do a very unique thing within the body. They inhibit what are called cyclooxygenase enzymes, so COX1 and COX2 enzymes. These are the same enzymes that aspirin inhibits. Now you might be wondering, why does this help you relax? Well, when you're in pain, it's hard to relax. And you may or may not realize it, but when you have high degrees of inflammatory signaling going on within your body, you have this feedback loop that's telling your brain to stay awake. So it actually helps relax you by literally physiologically relaxing your body by reducing inflammation. But the other thing, and the one that's really big, is a particular flavonoid known as apigenin. Okay, apigenin does something very cool. It binds to benzodiazepine receptors. Now, I'm not gonna go down a pharmaceutical rabbit hole here, but if you've ever heard of Xanax, or if you've ever heard of Valium or anything like that, those work on those benzodiazepine receptors. That's why they're called benzos, right? So chamomile actually has an effect on the benzodiazepine receptors, giving you an anti-anxiety effect. That's why legitimately you feel so relaxed when you consume chamomile tea. So of course, that's the reason why we'd want to sip on it at night. But when we combine some interesting ingredients with it, it does some even cooler things. For example, ghee. Okay, we mix it up with a tablespoon or so of ghee. Use as much as you want to. Half tablespoon, 2 tablespoons if you're bigger and want more fat in your diet. Okay, the cool thing is the ghee contains something known as butyric acid or butyrate. Okay, this is a short-chain fatty acid that feeds the intestinal cells. So it actually helps nourish the cells within our small intestine and within our large intestine. Very, very powerful stuff. Not to mention, of course, it's a very viable fat to use on a low-carb diet. But there's an even cooler thing that happens. Butyrate is a precursor to GABA, and a lot of people don't realize this. GABA is gamma-aminobutyric acid. Okay, GABA is the opposite of the glutamate cycle within the brain. Basically, more GABA, more relaxation. You have 2 phases that the brain can be in. It can be in glutamate phase or GABA phase. We want GABA phase towards the nighttime. So the ghee actually promotes that process within the body. Then lastly, you're gonna add a tablespoon of coconut oil. Okay, now all you're gonna do is add this into the mix, then whip it up, make it into a nice hot frothy chamomile tea. Now coconut oil, we know all the benefits. Of course, we got the monolaurin, which is coming from the lauric acid. We've got the MCTs. We got a lot of benefits. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's move on to the next drink. Super simple drink, something that I have coined as my own choco muumuus. Now, funny story, the reason that I call it my choco muumuus isn't because I named it my choco muumuus. You see, I started compiling all these ingredients into a specific drink, and I was consuming it at night, and it got to a point where I got so practically addicted to the drink that I was just sipping on it every single night. And I'd sit there with my little mug, like a little kind of goofy guy sitting on my couch sipping on it, to the point where Amber, my wife, started making fun of me, saying, you have to have your muumuus sippy cup. You always have to have your muumuus sippy cup. You can't go to bed without your muumuus sippy cup. So now, this drink has been coined as Thomas's Choco Muumuus. Super easy drink to make, and here's how it looks. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna be taking some cacao. You can take a tablespoon of cacao, 2 tablespoons of cacao, however much you want. That's the nice thing. There's no specific recipe. It's just a compilation of cool ingredients. Then I'm going to use some almond milk or some coconut milk, or lately I've been really interested in some of the other milks that are coming out, like macadamia nut milk. I'm just kind of experimenting with them. Try to stay away from the oat milk because there's usually a bunch of weird ingredients in that. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some coconut milk or coconut cream. Okay, I'm talking about the high fat stuff. And you don't need like a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of that. You're going to whip it up into a blender along with some salt, sea salt or pink Himalayan salt or Redmond's real salt, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to add a little bit of stevia to taste. Okay, it's all you're doing. You're whipping it up into a simple frothy beverage, and that's it. I mean, it's literally making a hot chocolate that's totally keto friendly, but still is heavy in the MCTs, still heavy in the good medium chain triglycerides that you want, but also just a nice, slow digesting, fat bomb style drink. Now here's the cool thing. You guys know that I'm a fan of Lakanto, right? Like I've done videos talking about Lakanto monk fruit. They're awesome when it comes down to that. Well, the cool thing is they actually ended up creating a drink that just so happens to parallel what I used to make with my choco muumuus. Now I still make my choco muumuus, but I thought that I'd give them a big shout out because this is pretty interesting stuff. See, what Lakanto's managed to do is they've managed to take monk fruit instead of stevia, which is obviously their main claim to fame. Lakanto sweetener, monk fruit is their game, which is super high in what are called moghrosides. Okay, these moghrosides actually prevent a histamine response. So let me explain this really quick. A histamine response occurs from like any food that you consume. Maybe you've taken an antihistamine before and you know that it's going to stop that histamine response. It stops the itchiness, it stops the puffiness. Okay, so we always have an amine and a histamine response, especially with foods that we may be sensitive to. The cool thing is monk fruit actually works as sort of an antihistamine. So it actually can stop some of that water retention that occurs. That's what's really cool about monk fruit as a sweetener. But the interesting thing is, of course, they've got their cocoa in there, but they've managed to add probiotics and prebiotics through a pretty unique way. Okay, so what they've done is, of course, they've added a probiotic effect there, but they've also added specific vegetable fibers that are in there to have a prebiotic effect. And they did this because they know that people that are usually following a low carb or ketogenic lifestyle are not getting enough in the way of their prebiotic veggies. They're not just chowing down on asparagus like they should. They're not chowing down on artichokes and things like that. So they need to be getting those prebiotic fibers in. So the cool thing is you're getting all the effects of Thomas's Choco muumuus, but you're getting it in a nice convenient pack that you can take with you when you're traveling. Lastly, they use algae flour. Okay, the cool thing about algae flour is, of course, yes, it's a vegan formula, but it also is super high in what is called docosahexaenoic acid, or DHA. So you're getting a brain benefit. You're actually getting an omega-3 out of it. So the stuff tastes awesome. Obviously, we're using monk fruit and erythritol with that. You can make it from scratch with this, but I highly recommend you give them a shot, especially since they're a huge sponsor of this channel and they make these videos possible. So huge thank you to them. And also, if you go ahead and you click on the link that's down in the description, you can get this stuff, but they also have chocolate bars too. So if you want to munch on a little bit of chocolate, something sweet before bed while you're sipping on your chocolate drink, you can go ahead and rock and roll with that. So please do yourself a service, but also do this channel a big favor by supporting me and supporting my channel, by supporting Lakanto, by checking them out and getting your hands on some down in the description. All right, I've got another drink for you though. This next drink is one that's gonna work if it's a little bit warmer out. Okay, maybe you wanna relax, you wanna have some cool beverage, you wanna just chill out, and it's gonna be an apple cider vinegar lemonade. Okay, maybe you've just had dinner and it's nice late night, and you just want to hang out with your friends and sip on some lemonade, but you don't want to be having a bunch of sugar, or you don't want to end up having Crystal Light and having a bunch of aspartame or a bunch of sucralose or anything like that. So what I suggest you do is you make an ACV lemonade. All you're going to end up doing is taking a couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in a glass of ice water, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to add like a squeeze of 1 to 2 lemons, depending on the size. You're going to add a little bit of pink Himalayan salt or maybe some Redmond's real salt, and then you're going to go ahead and add some stevia just to sweeten it up a little bit. This is some pretty powerful stuff. Here's why, and it works really well before bed. The acetic acid that's coming out of the apple cider vinegar is known to actually help upregulate what's called uncoupling protein 1. UCP1 does some cool things. What it does is it actually improves thermogenesis. So it actually improves the fat burning in terms of core body temperature by helping the migration of what is called a white adipose tissue over to a brown adipose tissue. Brown adipose tissue has blood flow and it actually has a metabolic effect. So we actually get more fat burning coming from the acetic acid simply because of that UCP1 activation. Then, of course, we have pectin that's coming from the lemons. Now, this is kind of a general vague thing, but the fact is pectin is a soluble fiber that's going to help you remove some of the toxins out of your system. So it's a good thing just to have at night anyway, but it's also going to help slow down digestion so you remain satiated for a while. Then the salt. Okay, we know in a low carb diet that it's easy to lose minerals. So of course we need it for the remineralization of the body, but where we really get a benefit from the salt in this particular case is it actually helps promote oxytocin release. Now, oxytocin has been known as like the cuddle hormone or as the love hormone, simply because it's released when you hug or released when you have sex or anything like that. Okay, so it's a pretty cool little thing. But what's interesting is that salt actually helps that process. So that's obviously very good before you go to bed. Okay, it's going to help you just get into that mode of just being relaxed, snuggled up, and ready to just curl up for the night. So here we have it, 3 simple beverages, 4 if you count Lakanto. So I do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this, but I also appreciate you supporting my channel and supporting my friends over at Lakanto. So make sure you give each of these drinks a try, find out which one works best for you. And as always, make sure you're keeping it locked in here on my channel. See you in the next video.